And you know the best thing about the future, it hasn't happened yet.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and the something that has to do with Spider-Man, I think, universe is finally dead.
Oh, thank God.
For now.
Come on.
With Kraven the Hunter being the latest in the franchise that just won't go the heck away, there appears to be a light at the end of the tunnel. That light, of course, being the merciful death of the Spider-Man adjacent universe.
What do you mean?
Well, The Wrap is reporting that Kraven will be the final bow for the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters. Yep, the spunk. Yes, that's exactly what they actually called it. This Wrap article has quotes from Sony insiders about the new direction they'll be taking with their Spider-Man movies, and oh my god, it actually involves Spider-Man.
Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
But this could spell doom for our friendly neighborhood web slinger and his time in the MCU.
What?
So a little later, I'm going to be joined by my friends Colton, Ogburn, and Tommy Bechtold to discuss this absolute train wreck of a franchise and what's going to happen next, and how it's finally being put down like a rabid dog. And we're also going to talk about this article's hidden clue about a Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six movie. And of course, guys, we have hot new merch drops right now at our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design all the merch ourselves. We have Tony granting life to Ultron, Loki Gator, and lots more. You can find links to those and to buy tickets to our live show down in the link below. So the article reads, for Sony, the future appears to lie in projects more directly connected to Spider-Man himself. They've developed what they want to develop for now. A top talent agent told The Wrap it's really about the next Spider-Man film. According to a second Sony insider, the studio is now focusing its efforts on Holland's highly anticipated fourth Spider-Man film, the next installment in the acclaimed Spider-Verse animated film series with Beyond the Spider-Verse, and a Spider-Noir television series featuring Nicolas Cage.
Not the beast!
Projects that lean into, rather than away from, the web slinger's central appeal.
So why are they making movies without Spider-Man to begin with?
Well, buddy, that's the thing. Sony would love to make these movies with Spider-Man, but they can't. They have a deal with Marvel Studios to make Spider-Man movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, in addition to their deal with Marvel, they figured they might as well make all of these villain spin-offs on their own. And contractually, they aren't allowed to use the Spider-Man character in any of their live-action Spider-Man villain films.
Not for lack of trying.
That's right, Jeremy Irons Alfred. Sony tries to skirt this rule every time. They even had Tom Holland film a cameo for their first Venom movie that Marvel stepped in and pulled just before the film's release.
Denied.
Somebody throw me back in the drawer. Oh, what's wrong now? Well, last night I caught up with some friends from home and, God, we hit the sauce a little hard.
Person, why is he hitting sauce?
It means he drank too much. Dude, you have to take better care of yourself. Remember, I was with you last night. We drank the exact same amount and I feel fine.
Witchcraft.
No, it's not witchcraft. I took a Z-Biotic. They're the sponsor of this video. Guys, Z-Biotics is one of my all-time favorite sponsors that we work with. Before we have family gatherings, I stock up on this stuff and then pass it around to people like party favors.
Well, what is it?
Well, Z-Biotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. You see, when you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. Now, it's this byproduct and not dehydration that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. But of course, remember to drink probiotic before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep so you'll feel your best the next day. Anytime I ever go out, I always take a Z-Biotic, especially with the holidays coming up. We've got family gatherings, office parties, friends in from out of town, and I want to be able to have a good time and still be able to work out the next day instead of being stuck on the couch.
I feel like I'm stuck in a couch.
So for this holiday season, I highly recommend you stock up on Z-Biotics by going to zbiotics.com/ScreenCrush. You can also scan the QR code on screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use the code ScreenCrush at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code. Believe me, it's a big savings and you're going to want to stock up on this stuff. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Just click that link below and you will not regret it. Now, back to what I was saying. So anyways, Sony resorted to just vaguely mentioning Spider-Man in post-credit scenes.
Has to do with Spider-Man, I think.
Showing video game art in alleys and almost saying his name at baby showers.
The name is...
And of course, this giant middle finger from Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
That guy.
And don't even get me started on the Spidey reference in Kraven.
You've seen Kraven?
Yeah, me and Colton saw it earlier this week, and we're going to have that review up very soon. So anyways, Sony knew damn well that all these little Spider-Man teases were never going to go anywhere, but they didn't care, and that is why they failed. They lack any and all vision to make an interconnected universe work. Rule number one, don't have your entire universe center around a character you can't even use. And look, the lack of Spider-Man wasn't the sole problem with this franchise. The first Venom film actually wasn't that bad. Hell, it was almost charming in places. And had they centered this universe around Venom and just made good movies, they really could have had a winner on their hand. But no, they didn't want to put in the work. They wanted to phone it in with slop and vague references to a character that they couldn't even use, and shocker, audiences didn't care. So guys, let me be clear. I take no pleasure in ripping apart these movies. All right, maybe a little bit of pleasure, but I'd rather these movies be good. It's way more fun to watch and talk about great movies than these clunkers that Sony's been churning out. And it's better for the comic book movie industry overall for these movies to be good because they lift each other up. But one thing I will say is that back when the first Venom movie came out, I was actually scared that it was going to be good and perform well.
Why?
Well, because I knew that it would mean that Sony would double down on this Spider-Man-less villain universe and that it could mean the end of Spider-Man's involvement with the MCU. I was afraid that if these movies did super well, Sony would pull Spider-Man out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The one upside to these movies bombing was that it meant Spider-Man's place in the MCU would probably be safe because it was their only success. Now, while my fear was that a successful Sony Villainverse could be bad news for MCU Spidey, it's looking like a failed Sony Venomverse could also be the end for MCU Spidey. So I want to get Tommy and Colton's thoughts on the death of the Spunk and what all of this means for Spider-Man's place in the MCU, and how this quote from a Sony insider could be hinting at a Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six movie. But I'm joined here by two of my best friends in the entire whole wide world. We got Tommy Bechtold and Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped in a television but doesn't know it, so please do not tell him. Colton, you okay? Did your headphone cut out there for a second?
Yeah, I can hear you now, though.
Okay, great. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, on, what are your thoughts on this Villainverse being over and on the Villainverse to begin with? Tommy, what do you got for me?
I've been a long-standing apologist of this cursed universe.
No way. Okay.
So this is a day of mourning for me, I guess.
You're kidding.
In the sense that when I woke up, it was morning. No, I'm fine with this. Are you kidding me?
Well, because there's some camp fun to it. If you're into bad movies, Madam Web is,
I mean, I think Madam Web kind of broke me in a way that I hadn't been negative about a movie in a long time. I was fine with Morbius for the ridiculous thing that it was. The Venom movies even have some pure entertainment value to me beyond being, ridiculous. But Madam Web to me was such an FU to like moviegoers. Throw away the comic book fans. Like, I understand, like, we're all way more into it than the average Johnny and Susie moviegoer. But I felt like Madam Web was just kind of like, hey, these are 3 steps adjacent to characters that you love. Give us $17 a ticket. Like, there's just too much. It bothered me. And now, by all accounts, Kraven will follow in that grand tradition. I have no doubt that there's nowhere to go but up for the SUMC or whatever the hell it's called. And I won't throw the last pile of dirt on the grave, but I will certainly spit a sunflower seed into the dirt and hope that it grows into something more entertaining than any of the last few movies have been.
I think when you look back at it, you can see that it's, some franchises, I'll give you an example, like Star Trek was a franchise built on a TV show based on Gene Roddenberry's utopian vision of the future. Mm-hmm. Star Wars was George Lucas's personal and political commentary on certain things told through space, but it was his personal story. Mm-hmm. Even the MCU had a fairly personal mission, which was to take these great comic book characters and adapt them to the big screen in a universe where they connect. And everybody who worked for Marvel, they would have a test where they would ask people what was the first appearance of Spider-Man's black costume. They knew the comics and they were fans of the characters. Like we were talking about earlier, Colton, I think this universe was built entirely out of greed. Sony realized that they couldn't make Spider-Man films, good ones. Mm-hmm. They loaned them out to Marvel, and then they said, well, what else can we scrape off the machine and put in the hot dog? Would you agree with that, like, unlike some other franchises that are successful, this one had no reason to exist?
No reason to exist. I'd like to volunteer to be the one to take this franchise out behind the barn and just shoot it. Like, I am so exhausted by this franchise. And if you can even call it that. And, yes, I understand that Sony Pictures' entire job is to make money. They're a company. Right. They would make so much more money if they would just let, I think that they made an incredibly good decision working with Marvel Studios on Spider-Man. That was the right decision, not just from a fan perspective, but I think from a money perspective. You're going to make way more money, making $1 billion+ with a Spider-Man movie than you are with these movies that cost maybe $150 million, and then maybe they make $300 million. It's just,
not even close,
I don't
know.
not even that. Yeah, I just
80.
don't.
No, it didn't make 80. My God, no, it probably made 5. Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
I just don't understand it from a financial standpoint. Like, take everything else out of it. It just seems like a bad business decision. It's just incredibly frustrating.
I want to push back on a tiny thing that you said there, and then I want to give some context for the movie industry as a whole. Their job isn't to make money, right? Their job is to make movies that then would make money. And the difference there is if you worked at McDonald's, your job isn't to make McDonald's money. Your job is to make cheeseburgers, right? So what they've been giving us for a long time now is essentially the equivalent of an Arby's cheeseburger. It makes no sense and it doesn't fit. Arby's doesn't have burgers. Right. But with the film industry, Patrick H. Willems did a great video a few months ago about like who killed Hollywood, right? Who killed cinema. And the film industry has never been a safe bet. That's part of it. They would make films for $10 million or $50 million, knowing that one of them would do well and make up the cost on the others because it did so well. It's the equivalent of a baseball player failing 7 out of 10 times. But those 3 hits they get per game are huge and monumental for the scoring of runs. That's essentially what the film industry is. So they lost track of rule number 1, which is tell a compelling story that's well told that audiences care about.
Yeah.
Even then, I know we always mock it. I still watch that Morbius post-credit scene, and I think, who was this for?
Thank you.
Who did they think?
That's exactly what that's the one thing that sticks in my craw is like the one slam dunk these superhero movies have is that people will go to see them purely based on wanting to get what's next, right? They want a post-credit scene, and I was on this show complaining about that and identifying myself. That is my weakness of like, the movie experience just being about the mid and post-credit scenes. Sony was never able to utilize that. I mean, at all. They were undercut, or not undercut. They undercut themselves by retconning Venom's post-credit scene, and then their Venom 2's post-credit scene, and then the other movies, they just don't make any sense. It's like you can't even get the post-credit shine of someone wanting to see something to be like, well, is this going to be the first time we see Peter Parker or a mention of Spider-Man that is, real or something we can hang on to? And they were never able to do that. It's like when you're failing at like kind of the simplest part of the job, just a teaser, you don't even like, it's like it was just such a weird, it was such a weird experiment that failed so catastrophically, and yet we still got 6 movies out of it, or 7 movies out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, that post-credit scene in particular was very much, hey, Siri, write a post-credit scene that teases a Sinister Six movie that involves the Vulture.
Yes, yeah.
And then it happens. Yeah. Go ahead, Colton.
Just the sheer incompetence over there at Sony Pictures. I just genuinely don't understand how someone whose job it is to make movies just doesn't seem to have any grasp of what they're doing, like teasing for tease sake, which is something that Marvel Studios has even fallen victim to as of late. Yeah. Sony, it has always just been, they think, oh, the audience loves vague suggestions to other things. No, audience likes vague suggestions to other things when it's paid off, or when the movie is actually good, or there's actually a tease for something that's coming.
Or Colton, to your point, the audience also likes when the shadowy figure turns around and his face is revealed to be Thanos, and you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be the big bad, to come, instead of like, here's maybe a version of Vulture speeding through a cornfield to talk to Michael Morbius,
and it made zero sense why he was even there. They have no. My biggest issue with Sony is I feel like the executives who run this thing, they have no respect for fans. I know we beat up on
material. Yeah.
I know we beat up on Marvel Studios some. We even back during the days of the DCEU. I will say that I think even they had somewhat of a respect, especially Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige. They have a respect for the fans. Do they mess up time to time? Sure. Sony just seems to have no respect whatsoever because they know that they can't use Spider-Man. Or at least I think they know, because for some reason in Venom, they filmed a scene with Tom Holland that they thought they'd put in the movie. They thought they'd be able to just, sneak that in. Which, of course, they couldn't. And like you mentioned earlier, Ryan, Marvel came in, put the kibosh on that. No, you can't do it. They just don't care. They just don't seem to care. And that's what bothers me the most about them.
It's the equivalent. I don't want to just harp on Sony the whole time, so I do want to get into some other language in this article. I could do this all day. I do want to say, what they've done is a lot like when your grandma goes to the dollar store to buy you a Star Wars action figure, and it says like, Star Warrior or something like that. Star Battles or something like that. And because they don't really know what the hell they got, and they never seemed interested in finding out what the hell they had. And when you look at like Kevin Feige's passion for the source material, I think that is what really makes it shine through, is that the executives love the characters, and these executives love their bonuses. So there was something interesting here. Okay.
If I could just
I really
add
don't want to
super
talk
quick.
about them the whole time. But
Sorry, just super last thing. What is sad about it, and you guys might disagree, I don't know. I feel like they had the potential to have a successful universe without Spider-Man. I've talked about this before. Focus on Venom. The first Venom was pretty good. You could have done something there. But they just
Kraven
fall into
Venom
this trap.
instead of other people, yeah.
Yeah, they just fall into this trap of we're going to put out slop and the pigs will eat it. The pigs being us, I guess. But it... Go ahead.
Anyways.
I'll rant about Sony
I know.
forever.
I could see you were going there like...
Yeah.
Actually, Colton's going to watch this video later and go, I have no memory of any of this. Because
Rage blackouts.
Rage spiral, man. Like, it's okay. Breathe.
Colton's getting compared to Aaron Paul online now, and he's turning into a real badass. Everybody call him Jesse Pinkman one more time.
I'm telling you, I'm into it. I
like it.
really like the way your hair looks now. I really
Colton
do.
looks like a badass.
Magnets, bitch.
Excellent. So there's this quote in this article. They've developed what they want to develop for now, talking about Sony Pictures. Does that mean that what they want to do is to take the slop, to quote Colton here, and to use that slop, Kraven, etc., and then to finally get their Sinister Six movie they've been wanting to make since Spider-Man 2?
Amazing
Tommy,
Spider-Man
what do you
2,
think?
okay.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, sorry.
No.
Which really began all this. Like, like you said, Colton, I don't think their job is to make money, but they sure as hell think their job is to make money. And they're not going to give up without a fight. And they've seen this strategy that's not working, and they're definitely not going to relinquish the rights to Spider-Man ever, I don't think. So what would this mean? Are we going to get a man-wolf movie like shoved down our throats?
No, so here's what I think this is all the derivative of. I think that they are going to put a firm period on this section of movies, and I think much like DC with James Gunn, Sony will in the next year name a creative overseer of their Spider-Man cinematic universe. There's plenty of people out there. They could go Lord and Miller and be like, take it to live action. They've got the Spider-Man Noir show at Amazon that's being made, and they have 3 others in development, I believe. It's
animated, right?
No, it's live action with Nicolas
sorry
Cage.
about that.
Yeah, no problem. My friend actually filmed a day on it. Or you could give Ryan Coogler his own universe. You know what I mean? Like, he's got the Marvel pedigree. It's like somebody who loves comic books that I think they're gonna try and rightfully so, and probably to much more success, copy the Marvel model rather and work. Obviously, they'll with something like that, they have much higher odds of having Kevin Feige go, oh, you're doing it the way we do it. Like, maybe we'll have Spider-Man. Maybe we can work together with these characters and cross-license things. But I don't know if that'll happen. And in fact, it might be in the best interest of Sony to just let to keep licensing Spider-Man to Marvel and then just create this universe outside of it, but with a proper overseer of the entire, proper captain of the ship, if you will.
Look,
I would say, okay, Colton.
Look, I would never suggest to Sony let go of the Spider-Man IP. That would just be, I mean, would I like that to happen? Sure. But I'm not, actually going to tell this company, hey, that super popular movie character you have, just give him back. No, that's silly. What they need to do, yeah, you could sell him back, but I think what they should do, you're talking about them having a creative director, that creative director should be Kevin Feige. They should cut a deal with Disney, with Marvel Studios, to do the same thing with all their other Spider-Man IP, roll it into their contract with the Spider-Man character they have with Marvel Studios, and just let the money roll in. I genuinely... Now, are they going to do this? Probably not. They're probably just going to keep going and making these horrible mistakes. Well, I hope not. I'm hoping that it does seem that they have learned a lesson. I'm just terrified of what that lesson is. And that's what I fear is coming. I don't know what lesson they've learned is my fear.
I'll tell you 100% what I think is going to happen here. It's okay, Tommy, I'll get you in a second.
Yeah, no problem.
I think what's going to happen is, I think they will let the next Spider-Man movie come out. It's going to be another multiverse movie, I guess, on Battle World and Secret Wars and all that stuff. I think they're going to let Tom Holland do his thing with Doctor Doom, and that's all going to be what it is. I think after that, they've probably got Tom Holland signed on for 3 solo movies, Sony does. I would bet you 100% they're just going to take Tom Holland out of the MCU. And then they're going, but not officially, they're not going to announce, they did say a weird thing when they renewed the deal where they said Spider-Man has an ability to go between universes, which
That's
maybe
a
was
unique
a veiled
ability.
reference to.
Yeah.
Maybe what's going to happen here is they're just going to say he won't appear in any Marvel movies, but these other characters who we developed in Marvel, Mysterio, the Vulture, and also Morbius, Kraven, probably not Madam Web. They probably want to distance themselves from that. Whatever Venom symbiote was left at the end of that movie, along with, hell, you could throw in any of the guys they set up in Amazing Spider-Man 2, anybody from the Raimi-verse, because after Secret Wars, it's going to be reset. So I think after that, they could bring in Alfred Molina or Willem Dafoe and just say they're in the same universe. And I think they're going to take advantage of that. And then they won't put him in crossovers with Captain America, but all of these different Spider-Man characters will be. And I think what they really want here is minimum 2 standalone franchises. They want to be able to put the Sinister Six in a billion-dollar movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, and they want Spider-Man to also continue to make billion-dollar movies. That's, if I were at Sony and if I didn't care about the characters, that's what I would be doing.
I think to that point, though, the thing that's confusing is they don't cast actors in these roles that are like ensemble actors. Jared Leto is not an ensemble actor. He's like very serious, self-absorbed. Maybe not in real life, but the way the characters he play, they don't play nice well with others, and not in an ironic, they'll have to learn to act as a team. Like, he plays a lot of lone wolves. Aaron Taylor Johnson plays a lot of lone wolves in movies. Like, Tom Hardy is maybe the most ensemble actor, and he's just because he's so charismatic. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he brought that to Eddie Brock, really. Eddie Brock was a loner, too. That was the whole point of the first movie, was like, doesn't have
all
any...
the Spider-Man villains are loners. That's why the Sinister Six never wins.
Right.
Because they're all in it for themselves every single time.
But
and what makes the Sinister Six interesting is that they're a threat to Spider-Man. Sorry, Tommy, I stepped right on what you were saying.
No. I think that was relevant to the point, but I just... the casting to me is interesting because you could make those characters come together like a Suicide Squad or something like that if you wanted to make a like team up movie that was told inversely, from the point of view of the bad guys. But I feel like the casting hasn't been right for that. I don't picture any of those actors. I mean, Aaron Taylor Johnson in his Avengers movie was not part of the Avenger. You know what I mean? Like, he only at the very last minute kind of came to his senses, and it was quickly gunned down in a crime of passion. So I don't...
Well, crime of passion. It was an accident. But
I just wanted to say gunned down in a crime of passion. I didn't really think that was relevant.
I have noticed you like to work that into conversations pretty organically sometimes.
That's a crime of passion of mine.
It's strange that we're so somber right now. Maybe it's the weather. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is great news. I mean, this is like fantastic that they're going to keep doing this. But my problem is I don't trust them. If they were announcing they were selling the Spider-Man rights to Disney for $10 billion plus a profit share, I'd be through the moon right now. But I think this only means they're going to do something else stupid.
Ryan, I fear that you're right that, yes, with the inevitable in-canon like reset that's going to happen after Secret Wars, I think Feige is fully aware that Sony is kind of shifty Sony over here. I think that he is probably aware of the fact and is trying to get his ducks in a row beforehand, because I think he wants to use that opportunity to be able to write Spider-Man out of the MCU if he must. Now, I don't think he wants that. I think he wants Tom Holland's Spider-Man to be in this new universe. Ryan, did I understand correctly? Did you say that is, if you were in charge of Sony or like was offering them advice, that you would give them that advice of pulling him out and doing their own thing?
If I were at Sony and I didn't care about the characters, and if I was there to purely make money, that is the most logical business decision you could make.
I have to push back. I don't think it's a great business decision to pull Spider-Man out of the MCU. I mean, I guess right now you could say that the MCU isn't what it used to be, but I think the MCU brings a certain amount of clout, and I think that this mutually beneficial deal that they've had is, Marvel gets to have Spider-Man be in their Avengers movies, but Sony gets to have Spider-Man be in the Avengers movies. Like, that's always been I think an extra little, pinch of something.
But you're forgetting what corporations care about the most, and it's growth. Like, you can't just these days you can't put out a Spider-Man movie every few years. You have to show growth in your franchise. I don't agree with it. I think it would be a terrible idea. I think they should just cut their losses and sell the rights back. But I do think that's probably what they'll do.
I think they would financially benefit from still having Spider-Man be in those movies. I think that if they were to just rip Tom Holland out, and then, Sony would try to, shifty Sony, they would try to do the thing where they pretend like, oh, he's still in the MCU, nothing's changed. And then Feige would have to come out and he'd say very, respectfully, no, he's no longer in this new Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then Sony'd be like, darn. And then they would just make some probably subpar Spider-Man movies and have him go up against the Sinister Six. And then where do you go from there? I think... And like I said, I'm not asking them to sell the rights back. I'm not asking them to sell the rights back to Marvel. I'm asking them to extend the deal, and I think it would be good for everyone. That's my hope. Now, I highly doubt that they make that right decision, but
I'm just looking up some numbers right now. This is interesting. Sony's had a bad year, and we knew everybody would have a bad year because of the strikes last year. Their number one movie this year, it was Bad Boys Ride or Die. Made almost $200 million. It Ends With Us, a drama, made 150. Venom: Last Dance, 140. This is domestic, by the way. Ghostbusters, 113. I don't have worldwide. So they're not doing great. And sometimes with a company, you can see they might be willing to take some cash on hand. Like, you inject $20 billion into this company, or $10 billion plus a profit share. If you're telling them, and I wouldn't surprise me if they're working on this. If they tell them, hey, Marvel, Disney comes to them and says, give us the rights to the character. We will, in perpetuity, if a movie features Spider-Man in it as a main character, you'll get this much. If he's in an Avengers movie, you'll get this much. You bear none of the cost.
Yeah, why
none
would
of the responsibility?
That's a sweetheart deal. I mean, do you see Disney ponying up $10 billion for I mean, what did Star Wars sell for? $4 billion?
5 or 3 or no?
5.
Marvel sold Star Wars sold for 5. 4. Marvel was 3 or 4. I thought
they got Star Wars for a steal.
It was a steal.
Yeah.
This is actually reminding me.
They wouldn't give them $10 billion with a profit share, but I could see $4 billion with a profit share, because that's essentially 4 movies. I don't know. I don't know how far in advance the accountants look and try to make their balances work, or how that goes, but
This is reminding me of a video that I did years back on my personal channel when it looked like Tom Holland was out of the MCU. I think it was that like right after Far From Home, like there were reports like, oh, he's out, and then like a month later he was back in.
Yes.
There were some reports that they valued the character at about $10 billion. I think maybe that Sony I just remember that $10 billion number.
Maybe not as a film franchise solely, But if you talk toy sales, video game licensing,
Well,
but Sony's already sold
but-
all of that back to Marvel. They
Well,
were
they
in
never-
trouble, so they sold a lot of that back piecemeal over the years.
I don't think Marvel I don't know that Marvel ever gave up the game and toy rights. I think they've always held those rights.
I think they gave up the toy rights initially, or a share of it, but then Sony sold them back. All merchandise, yeah, especially related to movies, yeah. I believe so. Now, it doesn't mean someone else, they can't license the toy to somebody else. I don't know, but like I said, it sucks that when we're talking about this, we're doing it from such a business perspective instead of like, hey, this is great for the characters, because I just think Sony, when you talk about Sony movies, you can't talk about them as actual movies. You talk about them as red and black letters.
Well, and I
on
think that's a
balance
testament to how poorly executed they are, that we can't really focus on the art of the movie, the filmmaking and the acting. It's instead, it feels like we're being asked to pay a premium price for a cheap product, like we're being delivered an inferior product and being asked to pay the same that we would pay for Iron Man or Avengers Infinity War. And I think people said no. They said, you can't show us Madam Web and the trailers for Madam Web that became instant memeable, unintentional comedy, and then be like, take your family of 4 out. It's $100 afternoon with snacks and popcorn. Yeah. It's like, no, we're going to go see Inside Out 2 or, something like that. It's
right.
like...
Or stay at home.
Yeah, or stay at home and rent a movie on VOD. It's like they have not proven themselves trustworthy to have their artistic merit critiqued. Instead, we have to just go the bottom line business about it. It's all... I think it's the situation they created. I would feel guiltier about it. We're all fans of movies. That's why we go on here and talk about it. But like when it doesn't smell right, it's hard to be like, well, hang on, let's examine Kraven from an artistic standpoint. It's like the movie took 4 years to come out because they had to reshoot the whole thing. Like it's like, come on.
And it shows. And by the way, I want to remind everybody, our Kraven Talkback is coming up tomorrow. I can't wait to tell you guys what I thought of this movie. It is a piece of work. I'll just put it that way. And I want to thank Tommy and Colton for coming on today. That's all the time we got. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this? Is it great news? Are you sad that we won't get to see the Aunt May solo movie? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, or at any of the three of us on our socials. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.